Never in my life have I ever encountered a buck like this. Not one drop tine, not two, not three, but 4 drop tines. This is the hunt for quad. Since as long as I can remember, I've really enjoyed going after big bucks. As most of you know, in 2015, I was lucky enough to kill one of the biggest bucks I'll ever kill in my life, the Coffman buck.
Life changer, baby, right there.
Since the Coffman buck in 2015, I've had the opportunity to have properties with multiple monster bucks on them. To name a few of the bucks I was able to hunt since 2015, you have Ghost, well over 190 inches. Then you go to the Coffman buck Jr., right there in the 180, 190 inches. After that, there was a deer that I never really even had a chance to name him because I wasn't sure what buck it was, because he jumped from 145, 150 inches all the way up to 200 inches the next year. I was able to harvest 180 inch 10 point, the 1 acre 180, if you've seen it. I was able to harvest 160 inch 8 point with a 13.5 inch G2. I was also able to set my eyes on a 200 inch deer in Indiana. So all these bucks, they fit that bill of that big, mature, old buck. And then in the season of 2022, once again, I'm able to set my eyes on a buck I never even dreamed of. The buck I speak of is a buck that I named Quad. He had 4 drop tines, and 3 of them had to be over 6 or 7 inches. Going into July and August is when I realized this buck is something special. He's starting to throw drop tines, 2 drop tines on each side. And these drop tines look big, and this buck seems to have a lot of mass. After this, he really gained my attention. So I started putting more cameras up and started paying attention to where he was and what he was doing. So now we're going into September. I'm getting good video of him, and I'm getting excited. I mean, extremely excited. I'm hunting a buck with 4 drop tines with an equivalent of probably 40 inches between all 4 drop tines. So through the end of the summer, I had a stand set up, I had everything ready, and in my mind, I was gonna go in there and I was gonna make it happen on day 1 with this buck. And the closer to season it gets, this buck starts to hardhorn, and when he does, he goes nocturnal on me. So after going nocturnal on the cameras that I had on him, I realized that, you know what, there's probably a couple locations on the property that this buck is showing up in the daylight. Now I gotta figure out where they are. So now it's time to go to plan B. So I started hitting the property, I opened up the Onyx maps, I started looking at my elevations, I started looking at my thermals, and I wanted to see, was this buck moving in the bottom? Was he moving in the daylight in the bottom? I had all my attention focused up on the top. I usually do focus my attention on the top more because I like to give the bottoms to the deer. The bottoms are extremely hard to hunt. You have thermals, you have other does, they're just extremely hard to hunt. And if I have the opportunity to kill this deer on the hilltops where I can keep the wind in my favor, then I'm much better off. Unfortunately, when they get to be 7 or 8 years old, they're also smart enough to know that, and that's why they go nocturnal. Well, lo and behold, within a week, I get a picture of this buck in the broad daylight and a walkway that I cut with a brush hog earlier that summer. Luckily, I got it on a cell phone camera, and it's now knowledge. It's time to go. It's time to get my stand in there and get it hung. Now, unfortunately, we're early season, so it's still 85, 75, 85 degrees, which is not in my favor. I head down there around high noon when I know he's still up in the bed somewhere, and I get a stand hung. I get down there, unfortunately, as I said, it's 85, 90 degrees. It is almost impossible to hang a stand and do a hang and hunt at that kind of temperature without sweating or leaving some type of scent. But I'm gonna try it anyways. I'm gonna do everything I can. I'm gonna try to use my face foam. I'm gonna try to do everything possible to keep my scent from getting to him or any other deer in that bottom. It's almost impossible with the thermals and the winds. 2 to 3 hours goes by, I hear a stick break behind me. I just look out the corner of my right eye and I see antlers. Immediately I knew it was him. He's walking up this logging road right to the left, and when he gets here, I'm gonna have a 15 to 18 yard shot. I look over to my right and I see that he's looking down. I immediately grab my bow, get my bow in my hand, and I get the camera ready. He's getting ready to come in that window, and next thing you know, I hear a stomp. He took off running out of there, ran back and to the left, and the does followed him. Little did I know it was going to be the last time I ever seen that buck on the hoof. I knew in my mind, early season with an encounter like that, I probably wasn't going to get another opportunity at this buck for at least another few weeks, if I was lucky enough to get another opportunity. This was an old, mature buck. He's smarter than that. He knew that he could get by with more down there. So the next couple weeks go by, I go to Indiana, and I'm in Indiana hunting, having a great time, and I get the text message that no hunter ever wants to hear. This buck's been hit by a car on the side of the road, and I get a picture of somebody else holding him. That is the worst way any hunter wants to ever see his buck killed. It's one thing to see another hunter kill him. That's something that I can be excited for. That's something that I can shake a man's hand and say, congratulations, that's awesome, and get to enjoy his harvest just like he would enjoy my harvest if I would have killed him. But getting hit by a car, that is the worst thing that anybody wants to see. Unfortunately, that was his demise. Fortunate for me, 2022 was probably one of the best seasons I had. I had two other bucks this year, one being in the 160s and the other one being in the 180s. Now the one, we call him Splitter. He was probably pushing 160, 165 inches. I really didn't have the desire to kill this buck. Me and the neighbor had talked about it. We feel this buck was a 4-year-old buck and had so much potential that if we could pass this buck, if we could get this buck through one more year, he was gonna be an absolute monster. Now I'm going after Droopy. I've got 3 to 4 years of history with this buck. I know the places he's been. The fortunate part for me is one of the properties that I was hunting quad on, I was also hunting Droopy on. So now we're going into the rut. I know what buck I'm after. I've already got some good nighttime pictures of him and a couple daylight pictures. So through the rut, I'm continuously every single day, morning and evening, and sometimes all day sit. I'm getting as much time in the tree stand as possible. I'm getting my black rack out, I'm making some noise. I'm pulling out every stunt that I possibly know to try to get this buck's attention. There were times when I would be sitting in a tree stand and my cell phone cameras would go off and this buck was making a scrape 150 yards away from me. Do you think he ever walked by me? I didn't have that luck this year. So during the rut when I'm hunting this buck, I was able to film the buck that we call Splitter put scrapes down right in front of me. It was very hard not to put an arrow in this deer, but we knew this deer was probably only 4.5 years old, and if I did shoot him, then I would be taking away an opportunity next year. So after a season like this, I know I'm going into next year with more ambition than I ever have. I'm going to put one of these bucks down. I am going to harvest one of these giants next year. I go into February, I find a shed, and that's just one more thing that just blows me up and gets me ready for next season. So I go into the summer, I know I'm gonna be putting food plots in, I'm gonna have more cameras out, I'm gonna have more cameras in the bottom, I'm gonna be watching my maps more, I'm gonna be watching my weather more, I'm gonna do everything I can to put one of these big boys down. So going into my 23-24 season, I've already done the work. The cameras are out there, the food plots are out there, everything's done. I've been doing my homework, and I anticipate the results are going to be a lot better than last year.